Somewhere beyond the recesses of time and space, two podcasters are set adrift in a machine, picking up transmissions of movies that are forgotten but not gone.
Welcome to Movie Memory Machine 5-4, the series where we are talking about 5 films thematically linked to or influenced by the film we are talking about on the main show this week. And boy, have we got a lineup for you this week. I am your host, Landon Solano, joined always by my co-host, Truman Caps. Truman, it is good to see you.
Landon, it's good to be seen, but hopefully not be jumping out of the dark and scaring you or something like that. What have you got for me today?
All right, we have got 5 films lined up for you. The first is not going to be that surprising, I don't think.
What could it be? What could it be? Oh, Poltergeist, directed by Tobe Hooper. The good one.
The memorable one. The one that people like. Yeah, you are the one that watched this for the first time right before we recorded the episode, so why don't you take first blood on your connective tissue between this and the remake?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of blood dripping out of that tissue, because this movie succeeds in all the ways that the remake fails, because this movie is just willing to sit and be about vibes. I mean, we talked about this so much on the main episode already, but so much of this movie is about really just enjoying the dynamics of this family and really believing the dynamics of this neighborhood and the people who live there, and it makes it all the more shocking when little low-key fucked up things start happening to this family.
Yeah,
and
I mean, the characters. I mean, it's about characters.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It's about characters, and none of the characters is a CGI squirrel. You don't need that. They had faces then.
Was it CGI in the movie? I'm not sure. I think it might have been real squirrel wrangling squirrels.
I don't even remember how much squirrel content was in the Poltergeist remake. I just know that they talked about it a lot in the interviews. Regardless, original Poltergeist does not make those mistakes. It does the thing better than the movie that tries to do the same thing 30 years later.
Yeah, it does. I don't think we need to belabor the thematic tissue here between the two because we covered that mostly on the main episode. But yeah, I would just kind of reiterate a family in crisis. And I think there's probably other horror films that have come out around 2015 and beyond that are probably more thematically related to the original Poltergeist than the remake is. So maybe the 1982 Poltergeist is the worst thematic film to pull.
I mean, it's certainly the worst for your interpretation of the Poltergeist remake because nothing makes the remake look worse than the original material.
All right, let's move on to our second film. Curious if you've seen this one. I'd be surprised if you've seen this one.
Pulse, a Japanese horror movie. That's going to be a big ol' hell no from me because I know how spooky those movies can get.
Yeah, this comes at right in that thick pool of J-horror that was at the turn of the century or turn of the millennia, however you want to categorize that. Kiyoshi Kurosawa, one of my all-time faves, doing a spooky film. Now, Truman, we talked about it. Even though I live on the outside of the horror community,
oh my god.
It's like in Mars Attacks when Annette Bening is sitting on top of the hill looking at all of the action with her binoculars. That's me with the horror community. I am separated but watching acutely.
You're living in that mobile home park where the other character in Mars Attacks lives.
So even so, I have seen so much horror. I have seen the gore. I've seen the jump scares. I've seen people's heads get drilled. I've seen dead babies. I've seen dead zombies. I've seen entrails filling the rooms. I've seen everything you can imagine. And it has completely broken my gauge for being scared.
Yeah.
Pulse is the only film, one of the only films, that still terrifies me.
Okay, that's a really good sign that I should never in my life watch this movie then. I like sleeping. I want to be able to keep doing it. That's why I never saw Sleep No More.
Oh. Well, okay, so Pulse is Kurosawa is basically, with this film, the connective tissue to Poltergeist, is making a commentary on the loneliness of like early internet, like the message boards, like this whole idea before we really landed on the idea of social media is supposed to connect us, but really it's tearing us apart. This film is saying, even though we are trying to connect with others online, it is isolating us and making us lonely, and that is tearing the human soul apart. And so this is very much about technology and what it does to one's soul and traps it in a certain way.
You know what, Landon? I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, fuck that, fuck this movie. If I could go back to what the internet was like in 2001, I would cut off a part of my body if I could go back to Web 1.0 and be on a V-Bulletin message board with all my bros, like some of the happiest times in my life. Oh,
we need
God.
to get Takashi Miike on the phone, because that sounds like another Japanese horror film.
I listen, probably so. I would audition for a chance to go back to the old internet. I'm just saying, back when there weren't profile pictures, when there wasn't an algorithm turning boys into Nazis, when it was just like, hey, do you want to go on a message board and talk about mushrooms or something? Your name is Mushroom Daddy 99, and you post a little thing, and maybe an hour later somebody responds.
Wait. Mushroom Daddy 99. What message boards are you on?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of exploration going on at the time. Next film.
All right. Moving on, we've got...
Oh, One Missed Call, another Japanese horror movie.
Yeah, speaking of Takashi Miike, One Missed Call, the original Japanese film. This is not... Here's the thing about Miike, is that, like, yeah, he has some of the hardest films to watch. I will never watch Ichi the Killer, I don't think. But
he's kind of a wild Miike, if you will.
We're done with Barnyard. We're putting that to bed.
Out to pasture. Go on.
Miike is kind of like a director for hire to a degree. Like, he you know how I feel about the auteur theory. I'm not going to relitigate that here, but
everybody knows.
He will do what serves the story most. And he is not as discerning about stories as I think American people, the American audiences for Japanese horror films thinks, because of what gets through to us. When you actually look at what he's made, it's all over the place. Like,
he's made children's films, right? In addition to fucked up gory horror movies.
All kinds of stuff. He made this superhero movie called Terraformars about a bunch of like space explorers who get have superpowers to turn into insects and fight.
Makes sense.
It's crazy.
Typical thing that happens, yeah.
One Missed Call is very much, on this technological horror thing. A girl's friend dies, and then after she's dead, she's getting text messages and phone calls from her, and it's all about being trapped in technology. What toll is our soul paying for being so connected to technology?
I love that we have two in a row Japanese movies that are taking a very accurate kind of look at how is the internet and how are cell phones warping us and destroying us, and they did it in 2001 and 2003 when the problem had only just begun to get bad, like before we had even an inkling of how fucked everything was gonna get. Very forward-looking, Mr. Miike.
All right, moving on to our next film. Truman, this is one I actually think you might like.
Okay. It's the children's film by Lake Mungo. I have not heard of this. Wait, is this a found footage movie?
If you need to very generally classify it, maybe.
But I do.
It's more of a documentary, a fictional documentary. And it's investigative. It's got talking heads with, I
love them. How big are the suits?
Well, when this film starts, it doesn't make sense. But unfortunately, it starts to make sense by the end of it.
Do any of the characters make flippy floppy in a creepy way that I don't want to see?
No, there's no, this is just a very, kind of suspenseful, a little bit of dread, no like jump scares, just kind of like very unsettling. It's just let's uncover what happened to this girl and some weird things that kind of happened after her death. She went missing. Is she alive? Is she dead? What happened to her? And the end of it kind of recontextualizes what you saw at the beginning, but a lot of it has to do with the footage of her that was taken on her phone, on her computer, just kind of left behind after she went missing.
Okay.
So she's living in these things, kind of like Carol Ann and Madison. Is that her name in the remake? Does?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Whatever the name of the kid is who goes into the spooky walls of the house.
Yes.
No, I love some kind of lo-fi dread and feelings of depression in my horror movie as opposed to jump scares. So I'll take a dip in Lake Mungo.
Yeah, I think you should. It's definitely an underrated one. But highly rated amongst those in the horror community. Tell me how I know. I got binoculars.
Because like the talking heads, you're tapping phone lines. You know that ain't allowed. Ooh, Monster House.
Yes, this was an easy one to pick. Actually, I think this might be most thematically connected to Poltergeist than any of the others we're talking about.
I mean, the house is literally a monster in the Poltergeist movies. So this is kind of like this is a real computer lady simplification.
Well, I mean, Gil Kenan directed both films, and it's got
written by Dan Harmon also.
This was written by Dan Harmon?
Yeah, it was written by Dan Harmon of Community and Channel 101 and Rick and Morty and a bunch of allegations. Anyway, let's talk about the movie. I haven't seen Monster House, although I've heard it's quite good.
Yeah, It's 2006, and it was just in this weird place in animation that is hard to revisit in 2025. It's like it lives a little bit in that barnyard world.
I was gonna say,
yeah, where it's not super great, but the premise is amazing. I think the script is actually its strongest suit.
Well, say what you will about Dan Harmon, the guy can write a script sometimes.
So I think this just shows that Gil Kenan, given a good script with characterization, can pull something off, and I think it indicates that Poltergeist probably had more producerial, is that a word?
Yeah, it could be. We're making it happen.
Producerial issues with it than anything else, because I think, as we talked about ad nauseum, that the cast is there. I think the talent behind the camera is there, but it's just a hollow shell that was meant for money, and oddly enough, no money went into it, or came out of it, or went back into it.
Well, no, it's the ultimate, like, they put money into it, but then the money disappeared. Ooh, ghosts. No money came back. The ghosts did a heist on us.
Oh my god. All right, those are 5 films for Poltergeist 2015. I don't know why I said it like we inserted that after the fact.
That's the amount of though energy and verve that the movie Poltergeist 2015 brings to the table. So it's only fitting you should refer to it that way.
Thank you. All right. Until next time, I have been Landen Solano.
And I've been Truman Caps. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Movie Memory Machine is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/gruntworkpod to keep the machine running. Theme song by Porky's Groove Machine. Rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. For more information on today's show, visit MovieMemoryMachine.com.